On March 8th, I introduced Women in Caribbean Aquaculture at the University of Stirling in Scotland.
So please give a round of applause for Dr. Juli-Anne Russo. Thank you, everybody, and happy International Women's Day. I want to thank Amina, Dr. Amina, my Caribbean sister, for inviting me. I've come a very long way. And I hope you can hear me. I'm really excited about presenting my passion for the very first time here on this platform. So I'm a little nervous, but I'm still very excited. So I just want to tell you a little bit about me, my journey. I'm trying to stay to that 10-15 minutes and then to talk about what our platform. So I'm originally from Jamaica. Who here has been to Jamaica? So Jamaica is known for music, sports, tourism, but it's not known for aquaculture, and that is my platform to start making it be known. So my journey, to make a long story short, in the Caribbean, especially in developing countries, education is a way out of poverty, especially for women. And we were always encouraged. We didn't have anything called STEM or sciences back then. It's as if you want to kind of make it way out, the number one thing is to become a medical doctor, right? So it's either medicine or engineering or an accountant. And I was designated as a first daughter to do medicine. So as long as I could remember, I was going to be the doctor of the family. However, so we did O-levels, A-levels, did all our sciences, just the way it was. When I got to university, I went to the University of the West Indies in Kingston. By my second year, I knew, I was starting to say that this is probably not for me, but it wasn't until I went to work at the Discovery Bay Marine Lab, which is on the coast. Beautiful waters. I spent my whole summer there. I said, this is it. I discovered my country. It was not going to be stuck in a hospital. It was just not for me. But how do you tell your family that, right? What, you're going to do aqua what? What is that? Marine biology? You can't make any money off of that. And so I didn't even know, actually I didn't even know it was aquaculture. I was actually doing research with Irish moss. I was helping out on a project, which is the Gracilaria species, and in Jamaica we actually use it for a drink. So it's a very well known, but I didn't really even think it was aquaculture. I just knew I wanted to be in the water. So I graduated, but it's like, if you don't want to do medicine, what do you do? If you don't want to do engineering, what do you do? There are really no other options, and agriculture is really not encouraged. So I decided veterinary medicine was the next best thing. So to make a long story short, I got scholarships because our primary and secondary education is really good, but for tertiary, you really have to be an island. It's just a very tiny island. So I got a scholarship to the University of Florida, and I did my master's, and I decided to continue with a PhD in fish health. And my professor, who was Ruth Francis Floyd, she was one of the pioneers in the States for aquatic animal health. And so I did a lot of work with the Florida farms and the case studies, and I specialized primarily with nutrition for fish health. So we were looking at the different feeds and how it affected liver, and so I really enjoyed that. However, I thought it was getting old, and I'll go back here. In my third year, I got an offer for an internship for this company, Hartz Mountain, which was in New Jersey, and they were looking for veterinarians to do fish health studies, because it's a company that works with animals and chemicals and all the things to do with animal health. But they also manufactured Wortley feeds, which was at the time, and probably still is, one of the #1 pet fish feeds. So I said, can I work with you? I ended up working with them as a senior scientist developing fish feeds. So I jumped because, this was an opportunity, this was an option, and it opened up a world of innovation, marketing. I was like the brainstorming team, taking a product from concept all the way to marketing. So as a jump from academia to science to manufacturing, it was a whole different world. However, I still thought of myself as a scientist and this academic. So I said I needed to go back and do a postdoc. So I got a postdoc at the Hub SeaWorld Institute in San Diego. And again, this was an amazing opportunity. I got to go behind the scenes of SeaWorld. Here am I working with, I think this is the white sea bass. We worked with the yellowtail. But this was the only institute in America that was given the permission to actually work with marine fish. Now, if you're keeping up with America, you know that aquaculture is not something that's really, you know, they have a lot of problems and people are just not into aquaculture. And so I found over time, this is 2007, by 2007, my cohort or anybody older than me had started to drop out of aquaculture because there were just no opportunities, and they were just getting a fight. This institute would get a fight on a regular basis for doing any kind of research in marine aquaculture. But it was a really great experience, and I developed nutritional feeds for marine broodstock, which was really hard at the time for them to get to eat the feed. So this was a wonderful experience. Anyway, I went back to Hearts and I stayed there for a while. But because there was really nothing happening in America, I decided I really wanted to go back home. So I started to do as consultant. This is a project I worked with USAID. I went back to Jamaica and started working with fish farmers, helping them, doing workshops and trainings, teaching them how to make feeds with local ingredients because it's very expensive to import the feeds. And this was really my passion project. But over the time, every time I went back, I realized that aquaculture was mirroring what was happening in America, to the point where by 2018, that was the last 3-credit aquaculture class at the University of the West Indies, and now there's no more offerings for aquaculture. When the last time I went back, I realized that the tilapia, which was a mainstay in between the 70s and 80s, was really not there, and we have no mariculture at all and no possibility of getting into it. So I kept trying to figure out how can I give back, what can I do, but it took a long time. I really enjoyed working with the women. I was trying to find some photos. This is what I could come up with right now, but I really enjoyed working with them, and it's the best part, getting to have the food, the tropical sunshine. I've really struggled with the cold the last couple of days, so I really enjoy going to Jamaica and see. And these are some of the other projects I worked on. I started doing more consulting with NGOs. So this was a project in Nepal where, again, we were teaching the cooperative. This was primarily a women's cooperative, and it was really nice to see them work together, making fish feeds and just teaching them about general aquaculture. And just using what they had because they don't have a lot of supplies. So it's just teaching them, you know, making a seki dish, just basic things that they didn't really know about, but it's very basic. So fast forward to 2020, I decided it was time to leave America. Some of the challenges that I had as a woman of color, woman that, you know, I'm an immigrant. Even though I lived there for 20 years, I have a US passport, I was still an immigrant. If you keep up with you know, what's going on, it was just really becoming more and more difficult to really work under all of those categories. And some of the things that I realized for a woman of color is that once I left Jamaica, once I left the Caribbean, I was the only one. I was the only one in the boardroom. I was the only, if you want to say woman of color, you know, woman, immigrant, I was always the only one. And many times it was a boardroom full of men. So I didn't really have mentors. I didn't have anyone to like really navigate the space. And those are some of the things that after a while I really wished I had. So I moved to Italy. So I've come full circle back to Europe, and I decided we're in lockdown. What do I do now? event of Zoom. Everyone started to have a cell phone. So I started to contact some of the farmers that I had worked with. Even the remotest farm had a phone, and started using social media, and it came to terms that the information they gave me was that the farmers weren't really working together, and they really needed a network, and they really needed support outside between themselves, because they didn't trust each other for whatever reason. So I said, okay, I'm going to start a Caribbean Aquaculture Network, and started using the social media and meeting with them on Zoom once a month. And in that discussion, this was 2021, I learned that we have a lot of women scientists out there, which I didn't know. And so, don't want to date myself, but all of these women are 10 years younger than me. So I was like, so excited. I was like, I've never seen this before. And one by one, they started introducing themselves to me, because they heard what I wanted to do. And so as of today, we have a planning team, and we decided to backtrack. I was researching, and I found women in Scottish aquaculture. So women in Scottish aquaculture, I was like, wow, this is fantastic. I love the work that they're doing. I want to do this. And so we formed Women in Caribbean Aquaculture, and we've been sponsored by Biomar, and they produced our logo, which I think they're going to be publicizing soon. And we decided the structure was going to be, we needed Caribbean Aquaculture Network for everyone, but because we have so many women scientists, we are going to lead the aquaculture with women in science. And as you were saying in your slide, Caribbean women are very much into science. There's more scientists than there are men. We have one guy, but we have all these women, so we're like, whoa, this is fantastic. I didn't know there were so many women out there. So this network is formed primarily to talk about women who are born in the Caribbean, because we want to elevate the women who are actually there and who are actually doing the work, but we don't want to narrow it to that, because there are other women who are working in the Caribbean, and so we want to embrace all the women who are dedicated to aquaculture in the Caribbean. So we have, one thing I also noticed is that a lot of us who went away to study are not living in the Caribbean, so it's a and so we were like, we need to bring this back, but many of us don't live there because there are really no opportunities. And so we want to bring back all of our knowledge, all of their experiences to there. So we have Risha and Mia. Risha and Mia actually went back, but they're FAO consultants. Mia is in Bahamas at the Island School. Dr. Lisa, she's in Trinidad. She's actually a veterinarian, but she does public health. Ruth is in Belize. I'm going to talk about her and Leanne. So Stacy, Risha, and Ruth were all on the Erasmus program, which is also a very new, I think they're the second cohort. So in my day, they didn't have that. So now they have these opportunities. Dr. Carla, she was on a Fulbright, went back to Trinidad and became Trinidad and the Caribbean's only fish health aquatic veterinarian. Since then, she has moved back to the States. Dr. Amina, and Jen and Dr. Stacy is in Puerto Rico. So this is some of the work that the women are doing, bridging the gap between marine conservation and aquaculture. So our fisheries is practically decimated, but there's no aquaculture, or the idea or the vision of aquaculture being used to help with that problem. There's, they're trying to utilize fish sanctuaries, or putting, concessions that the fishermen are not supposed to fish, but what happened to aquaculture? So this summer, in conjunction with Dr. Megan Davis from Harbor Branch, they're going to be starting a conch hatchery in Discover Bay, and Shanna Lee is going to manage that project. Ruth is a wonderful young scientist with so much enthusiasm, and she wants to change the seaweed farming in Belize and the Caribbean. And I started a series, Caribbean Women, celebrating Caribbean women. So it's on the fish site, online magazine, if you know of it. It's a Scottish magazine. So we have a series, and I wrote up an article on Ruth in that series. We have Nikisha, who is also doing her PhD, but she's an entrepreneur. She has a fish farm in which you can go and fish, tilapia specifically, and then they cook it on site. So it's like fishing inland, and you can cook. So it's a really innovative way to be an entrepreneur. Juli-Anne, another enthusiastic young scientist, she's working on oysters. She's actually doing her master's, I think, in Iceland. But we also have an article on her, so I hope you can go back and look it up. And this is Carlo. She is the aquatic animal veterinary scientist. And I started a YouTube, and we had a wonderful discussion about why we need more aquatic animal scientists if we were to, increase aquaculture in the Caribbean. We need more fish health because, diseases. So I hope you check that out. And Amina and I, during the lockdown, we had a wonderful discussion. We sat down and talked about what can we do for the Caribbean, how can we help the situation, what can we give back. So I hope you will check that out also. So here we see a huge generational gap in aquaculture scientists. We know that we don't have a problem with women doing science. We are encouraging it, but what we really want to do is to encourage aquaculture as a science. So for all of those who think they may want to go into medicine or engineering and it's too expensive and they can't afford, there are scholarships available for aquaculture, there are grants for entrepreneurs, and there's so much more of a need for engineers, research and development. I mean, it's just a wide open gap. So the opportunities are there if you're interested in working in the Caribbean. So our mission is to introduce aquaculture science into the STEM curriculum. We know that we have a challenge for us because culturally, again, it's like aqua what or agriculture? No, our children or our daughters need to be medical doctors. So we using the platform of these amazing scientists, because we have to do all of these different kinds of scientists. We want to change that vision of what aquaculture is, or what it's not just throwing tilapia in a pond. We wanted to make it, something that is viable for our region. We want to increase this cohort and ongoing sector of scientists. So that is our vision, and I'm really excited to be telling you about it. So we use social media a lot. It's something about scientists, and when I started talking to everyone, I realized that they didn't really have a platform. They weren't really utilizing LinkedIn or anything like that. And I think it's something that we need to do more to come from behind the bench and to use our voice to explain to people more about what we do, and to really, communicating our science really. So we did a YouTube just basically just putting our conversations together. But we have a wonderful new newsletter, which is on a nice platform called Substack. So please feel free to subscribe and you learn more about what we're doing and all the people that are involved. And we have hopefully in the future to have someone that's monitoring our Instagram to make it more public relations platform. So if you'd like to contact me, these are my contacts. I'm on Twitter, and you can learn more about me on LinkedIn. Thank you.